You're listening to Hysteria, the podcast for people whose Kendrick v. Drake is Jasmine Crockett v. Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Reporting for duty.
Reporting for duty, and I'm glad MTG is in the Drake position in that versus because...
What a wreck.
Jasmine Crockett is 100% the Kendrick. And if any, I want to avoid any confusion, she is
All
the Kendrick.
Star. Yes.
Although that is pretty mean to both Drake and Marjorie Taylor Greene to compare them to each other. I guess both of them pretend to be from places that they're not really from.
Yes.
Or like mine the culture of places they're not really from. So I think
boring.
Marjorie Taylor Greene has never really like lived in her district. She bought a house there. Yeah.
Just because.
And Drake is, from Toronto. So there you go.
Snooze.
Okay, let's just get to the news. Republicans are talking about birth control. I'm going to say this. Between now and the election, a lot of Republicans are going to come out and try to present themselves as reasonable on things like birth control, IVF, and abortion. Think about them like you would think about a guy that would say anything that it takes to get into your bedroom or your pants. They don't care what it takes to get them there. That is all they want to do is to get into office. And then they are not going to do any of the reasonable things that they claim they're going to do. And some of the things that they're claiming are reasonable are not in fact reasonable. And they're all fucking lies. They lie. They will lie and say whatever they need to say to get elected and then fuck you. Because that's what they
are the boy sophomore year that's like, I do love Lifetime movies.
Or I do love you.
Yeah, like, that too. It's like, I was a lower bar.
Yeah, mine was really, really dark. Okay, so former President Donald Trump, who does not seem to be well, I'm going to just say that, has a really confusing stance on contraception. He did an interview with Time magazine that was a really long and terrifying read, maybe about a month ago, and claimed that he'd be releasing a big statement regarding mifepristone and contraception. He said it would come within a couple weeks, like his healthcare plan and like his infrastructure plan. No such statement has come. And this week on social media, he said that people are spreading misinformation if they say he might restrict birth control. However, in an interview with a Pittsburgh TV station, he said he would consider restrictions on contraception.
That he was going to come out with a plan. He was going to come out with his contraception plan.
And everybody was going to like it. He's looking at contraception. I cannot reiterate strongly enough that it is very creepy that the compromise for these people is letting a bunch of elected men decide what you are allowed to do with your body. That is so fucking weird and convoluted. And why?
And nothing he says is trustworthy or his campaign when he says something and then the campaign rushes out to correct it.
Yes. But ultimately, if he were to be reelected president, he can say things that have repercussions that are immediate. He can sign things and all that has to happen is for one far right anti-contraception zealot to get in his ear. And we've got like a nationwide ban on IUDs.
And they're everywhere, Erin. They are everywhere.
They are everywhere. So don't trust Donald Trump in any of the things that he says about abortion, birth control, or contraception, because he, A, doesn't have a plan, B, is scared to have a plan because it's really him stepping on rakes over and over again. And see, he's a liar. So there you go. And it's just so creepy when he talks about
so creepy
women's health
because he's always like a little sweaty. You know what I mean? It's just like,
he's got like Ozempic neck real bad now.
He does, doesn't he?
It's
went too high too fast.
It looks like the part of a cave that if you went there on an elementary school field trip, the boys would point and laugh at it and say it looked like a vagina.
Well, yes. And here's the other thing. He's always notoriously bought his suits too big because he thinks it makes him look thinner. But he's also clearly too cheap to buy new suits. So now he just looks like his neck is like out here. He's a wreck.
He's not doing well.
He's a wreck.
Melania is not giving him any advice about anything at
I'm
all.
waiting for his hair dye to start dripping down the side of his face like Rudy Giuliani in his new coffee line.
God, Rudy Giuliani. You almost feel bad for the guy.
He's a mess, too.
He's an absolute mess. Let's talk a little bit about Virginia Governor Youngkin. We kind of sleep on him. He's really bad. And he's bad.
And lazy.
He's bad and lazy. Alyssa, why don't you take that away?
So here's the problem with old Youngkin. Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin vetoed a bill that would have codified access to contraception in the Virginia state law. Now, Erin, worth noting that he has done nothing more aggressively than veto bills. He has vetoed 201 bills in a single term.
Okay. So he's kind of like evil Tony Evers.
It's like someone gave him a stamp and he got really excited to use it, and that's all he does.
He got excited to use it, but like in the dark of night.
Yes, with a fleece vest on.
In a cloak. So nobody can take pictures because what he's doing is very unpopular. But he's doing it anyway. He can't help himself.
So when he was asked why he did this, he said that access to contraception is codified federally through Griswold v. Connecticut.
No, it's not.
Youngkin Wonkin. He said, moving forward, quote, and this one, Erin, you know this one gets me. He said, quote, any contraception-related changes must be coupled with robust conscience clause protections for providers and must also uphold the fundamental rights of parents to make decisions concerning their children's upbringing and care. Okay, Erin, what more needs to be done for the conscience clause than it just simply existing? Like, the conscience clause is if you are a pharmacist and you don't believe in something, you can respectfully step aside and let another pharmacist or pharmacy employee handle that order. That's what's supposed to happen. What more does he want?
I don't know. I think he's, again, like, he knows that there is no way for him to win on this issue. Either he pisses off everyone who got him elected, like his base and his donors, or he pisses off normal people.
Yeah.
And there's way more normal people than there are base and donors for Glenn Youngkin. So he's trying to kind of have his birth control and eat it too.
Gross.
I know. Sorry. By saying that, like, yeah, well, I'm not going to codify access to contraception in state law because there's a very flimsy precedent in place that has been in place since the 60s, even, ignoring the fact that the Supreme Court has no problem overturning established precedent.
Roe was codified until a year ago.
Yeah. This is just really weaselly stuff.
Par for the course.
And of course, it's interesting that he falls back on his favorite little hobby horse, rights of parents, because that's what got him elected. Right. Listeners might recall that people in Virginia were angry about the school closing Whiplash during COVID, and that's literally how he got elected. So he's trying to pretend that somehow conscience and contraception is somehow tied up in parent morality and whatever, and it's confusing and it makes no sense. Speaking of things that are confusing and make no sense, Senators Ted Cruz and Katie Britt say that they're going to codify IVF access and protect life at the same time. Alyssa, how are they going to do that?
They're not, Erin. They're not. It's, again, this was a easy breezy op-ed. Here's the problem. The headline the Wall Street Journal gave us says they're going to codify IVF, which sounds good. The one question before I ever read the article was, what about the embryos? Because that's actually the problem. What about the embryos? Well, Erin, they hoped that this bill would address the quote-unquote confusion that arose after the Alabama Supreme Court ruled that IVF embryos should be considered children. So what these two say is, yes, we are definitely, you guys, everyone should have access to IVF. We want more babies. We want more children. Here's the problem. As Jess Valenti points out in her newsletter today, the language of the bill defines IVF as, quote, the practice whereby eggs are collected from ovaries, manually fertilized by sperm, and later placed inside the uterus. The limited definition is very deliberate. They aren't objecting to the process of retrieving eggs and fertilizing them. The issue is what happens to the frozen embryos, which they do not address. Discarding unused frozen embryos is a very normal part of the process, but the pro-life groups, Erin, they don't like it. They don't like it. And beyond that, anti-abortion activists want to limit the number of embryos created and then want to dictate how they are used. Landmines are everywhere. This was nothing but putting lipstick on a pig.
Exactly what the Alabama Supreme Court ruled should happen. So they're trying to make that nationwide.
Yes.
Like they're trying. Okay. So my first thought before I got into the bill was that they were going to try to walk that ridiculous line where it's like, oh, it's only a child if it's in a woman's body, which is like ridiculous. But no, what this bill would actually do is reinforce the Iowa ruling that, like, oh my God, nice try. God, Katie Britt's a creep.
Also doing it with Ted Cruz, extra creepy.
Yeah. What?
Ted, what do you have to say on this matter?
All right. You know what? Our party is having a real problem with women. Let's team up. Let's team up like a robotic wife Omatic who gave a speech from her kitchen. I
was going to say, I'm surprised they didn't do an Instagram live from her kitchen. I
mean, honestly, and let's team her up with the man that women find least appealing in the entire Senate.
Man who left his dog alone on vacation.
Is there anybody less appealing to women than Ted Cruz?
No.
I'm just trying to think of like a senator that's like grosser. Even like Mark Wayne Mullen.
I was going to say Marco Rubio, and then I was like, no, still not as gross as Ted Cruz.
No, Marco Rubio, I think, is like a little twerp, but not like he doesn't gross me out, you know?
No.
But yeah, Ted Cruz. Who made this decision to write this op-ed? And why
those two were in the Republican caucus, and they were like, have we got an idea for everybody?
Oh my God. Somebody should have spoken up and been like, don't. Okay, more abortion news. Good news from Nevada. Nevadans for Reproductive Freedom announced on Monday they've reached 200,000 signatures, which is enough to advance a ballot measure that would enshrine abortion rights into the Constitution. Nevada needs excitement this year.
Yes.
Excitement. There has been some kind of disturbing articles recently about how Democrats used to have kind of a hold on Nevada, and this year it is a really important state. And getting voters excited to show up to vote for Joe Biden and to keep the Senate blue, we really need some enthusiasm there. So having it at the ballot box is really important. More good news about this. The 200,000 signatures is double the threshold required to qualify for the November 2024 election. So that bodes well in terms of voter excitement. Currently, Nevada does allow abortions up to 24 weeks for an elective procedure, and later if there is a serious issue with the health of the mother or the health of the fetus. So Nevada's already got it good, but they're just trying to make it so that it's like locked in.
Yeah. They're like, because that's what people have to do.
You got to lock it in.
Got to lock it in.
You got to lock it in. Sam Alito is up to no good.
What a wreck. Again.
Salmon Alito, as we call him.
Salmon Alito.
Oh, God. I always just, whenever I picture him, my first thought is him in those pristine waders that clearly have not seen more than 2 hours tops of outdoor action, holding up a fish that he almost certainly did not catch. Next to a billionaire. That's why we call him Salmon Alito. So what's Alito gotten himself into this time?
Well, Erin, New York Times had a little story about how Supreme Court Justice Samuel Alito flew an upside-down flag outside his home following Biden's win in the 2020 election. Reminder, because honestly, and this is what's honestly, the Republicans have to stop with the flag. It is like outrageous.
Yeah, leave it alone.
Just leave the flag alone.
Quit coloring on it. Quit coloring on it. Turning it upside down. Making it black and blue. I don't understand. I saw a green one the other day, one with a green line, and I was like, what the fuck is the green line?
I gotta be honest, I usually Google because I'm like, what's that one mean? What are all these different stripes? But the funny thing about their use of the flag is that the whole point of the flag is that you're supposed to respect it. It's not supposed to get wet. It's not supposed to drag on the ground. Meanwhile, people are just out there flying the flag from their truck in the middle of a rainstorm, and it's like, you literally are using, like, you're disrespecting something that you think it's too much for me. But the upside down flag used to serve as a distress signal, right? That's what it meant.
I wish it served as a distress signal in Sam Alito's house.
Used to be a distress signal.
But he slipped and fell in the bathtub or something.
These guys, the MAGA folks started flying the flag upside down in reference to their Stop the Steal movement related to the 2020 election. So a Supreme Court justice outside his house just flying a Stop the Steal flag.
Oh my God. I cannot keep up with all of the symbology involved in their adult Goonies style LARPing.
100%
so
Goonies.
Ridiculous.
Yes.
Like,
yes, ma'am.
Okay.
So, judicial experts are like, this is no bueno. This is not cool. Like, you should not be. It's like a clear violation of the ethics rules that we know barely exist. But you know what he did when he got caught? Aaron, he blamed his wife.
That's exactly. You know who else did that? Adam, God. A lot of people blame women. Let's
see who else. Who else is
deeply
blamed
held
women?
Christian tradition.
He was like Martha Ann Alito. She flew it upside down. I had nothing to do with it. But Erin, if you look at the picture, the flag was like at his garage. Like, if you pull out your car, how did you not see it? Plausible deniability is not effective in this case.
Oh my God. Honestly, no, blaming women is so biblical. Blaming women is incredibly, like, Lot's wife is turned into a pillar of salt because she looked back as they were fleeing Sodom and Gomorrah. So,
well, I mean, and look, it worked for his brother, Clarence Thomas, blamed Ginny for everything that happened. He was like, oh, Ginny accepted that. Ginny did this. But also, Erin, men blaming their wives is not just a Republican thing, because Bob Menendez's entire defense right now in his criminal trial seems to be based on blaming his wife, who was diagnosed with breast cancer. I'm not laughing about the breast cancer, and is about to undergo a mastectomy. What?
Oh my God. That is, wow. Yeah.
That is uncool.
Yeah. That's a deal breaker, ladies. Your husband throws you under the bus like that. Also,
yikes. Time to take those gold bars, Mrs. Menendez, and head to another jurisdiction.
Yeah. There's a lot of countries that don't have extradition orders with the U.S. and they're pretty easy to get to. Not that I'm giving advice on how to break the law, but
I mean,
oh God, that is so shitty.
It's cringe.
Alito's excuse was Mrs. Alito placed it in response to a neighbor's use of objectionable and personally insulting language on yard signs.
Now, grow
up.
up. Also, an anti-Trump sign is not the equivalent of saying an election was stolen.
Yeah, that is
not the same. Go ahead and put your Trump sign up, girl.
There's something so funny about Alito thinking, like, you know what is an excuse that people will buy? If my wife was in a childish fight with some neighbors, like,
my wife is a petty bitch.
My wife is like, fucking,
as women are.
No, but that's the thing.
Couldn't control her emotions, as women can't.
Okay, I'm sorry. As a petty bitch, I gotta say, that is not a creative solution to a petty problem. Petty bitch comes up with something much better than just like flying an upside down flag. That makes you look stupid.
Because we know some petty bitches.
We are some petty bitches.
We are petty bitches.
When the situation calls for it, we are petty bitches.
Honestly, hysteria@crooked.com if you need better ideas.
Yes, 100% hysteria@crooked.com. Incorporate some of the anti-Trump signs into a funny Halloween display that year.
Make a collage.
Featuring zombies that resemble your neighbors. That would be a funny petty bitch thing to do.
Super funny.
Super, like, sorry, Mrs. Alito, Martha Ann, if you're listening. Yeah, come on. That's no, you're lying, Sam Alito. Never miss an excuse to be a dick.
You're lying and you're boring.
And one more thing I wanted to talk about today is when we were putting the show together this week, because this week has felt so long, Alyssa, and because I think so much dumb shit has happened, Alyssa and I were both like, oh yeah, this happened after we did the show last week. We must talk about it. One of our favorite people in Congress is Representative Jasmine Crockett of Texas. We recently had her on the show. She is absolutely a delight. And last week, she got into it with Marjorie Taylor Greene during a committee hearing. So here's the thing. Marjorie Taylor Greene insulted her for no reason during a committee hearing that was, on its face, stupid. It was about whether or not to hold Merrick Garland in contempt of Congress because Republicans would rather do literally anything than their job, which is to make and pass legislation. Like, do your fucking job. They're useless. So they're in this useless committee hearing. Marjorie Taylor Greene insulted Jasmine Crockett's false eyelashes, and AOC jumped in and was like, hey, you apologize. That's not called for. There was a lot of kind of like blah, 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 blah. And,
my favorite thing, Erin, right in this moment, is that AOC knows the rules of committee better than the heads of the committee.
Yeah, which is...
Because she was calling them out on procedure and they were like, wait, what? Is this true? And it's like, yeah, dude, she's correct.
Yes. Okay, so she was calling them out on stuff. And the guys in charge were sort of like just big, dumb guys, not really knowing what to do. They didn't do anything really beyond just being like, hey, ladies... Don't. Jasmine Crockett fired back in this really incredibly indirect, shady way where she didn't even mention Marjorie Taylor Greene's name. She said she referred to Greene as a beach blonde, bad-built butch body.
If someone on this committee then starts talking about somebody's bleach blonde, bad-built butch body, that would not be engaging in personalities, correct?
A what now?
Alluded to the fact that it was Greene.
No notes.
And Marjorie Taylor Greene instantly acted like wounded, which is, just classic. And it was really funny. Jamie Raskin's face, I think, was the co-star of that. He did not know what to do.
It's like, I don't know what to say. And honestly, if you're just a white man in that situation, that's the correct response. There's nothing for you to say.
Here's the thing. If the girls are fighting, and they are, which is absolutely fine by me, I actually just wrote my first column for Esquire this week.
Yes, can we link it in show notes?
Yeah, I think we can link it in show notes. It's gonna go up. But I wrote about this exchange and how, the whole when they go low, we go high thing doesn't work for everybody. And I think it's really refreshing as a Democrat to see somebody stand up for themselves. Like, we don't always have to sit there and take it. Like, not every Democrat needs to fire back. Like, beach blonde, bad-built butch body is that's a banger of an insult. And,
yes.
And Crockett just had it there. Let her be herself. Like, not everybody needs to try to be Jasmine Crockett, but I don't think that we should try to prevent people like Jasmine Crockett from firing back when
let Jasmine be Jasmine.
Let Jasmine be Jasmine. I actually think that as somebody who's kind of tired of watching Democrats just like slave over being adults in the room, like you don't, you know what? Eventually you get pushed too far and you are in the right to say something kind of rude back. Was it rude? Yes. It was
especially when the clapback is perfect.
Yeah. And it's been remixed. I just think that I don't think that it is like a time to be like, oh, no, civility. No, come on. Let's not be lobotomized by this complete illusion of civility in DC because it's not a civil place. And I think that there's something really respectable about people who hit back when they've been insulted. And
Erin, it gets even better, doesn't it? You got to tell the punchline.
Beach blonde, bad-built butch body has been trademarked.
Yes.
And Representative Crockett is now selling Crockett clapback merchandise, and the proceeds from it support the reelection of Democrats and the taking of the House. So maybe that something adults can actually get done there.
You know what I'm going to get you as a post-baby present now.
Oh, my God. I would wear it. I would 100% wear it. And I think a lot of people in my neighborhood would recognize and know what that meant. One more thing. Harrison Butker is just an idiot. And I just wanted to give a shout out to Eddie Vedder, who is still...
Icon.
He's still such a dreamboat, like such an icon. And he's just great. But Eddie Vedder called him a fucking pussy.
Which wasn't even the best part because Eddie, who, by the way, I just have to remind everyone, I aspirationally dressed like in high school. Large flannel shirts and hair like he had in the video, Jeremy. He said, quote, "It's not a graduation speech. The irony was that the football player, kicker. You see, the kicker doesn't have the pads because he doesn't tackle anybody or get tackled. But he started. He was telling men, don't forget to puff up your chest and be more masculine. Don't lose your masculinity." And then he called him a fucking pussy. So it's like, the pussy part, I don't know. But the rest, making it sound like he had the weakest position on the football team. I felt like that was really going to get him where it hurt.
I mean, imagine if you made Eddie Vedder. Look, honestly, I would much rather be married to Eddie Vedder than Harrison Butker.
Oh, 100%.
Like 100%. I think most people would. Men and women would.
Look at my iPhone playlist. You'll see where I come down on this.